ми без сумніву маємо вітати мирні ініціативи та переговорний процес між двома країнами під егідою Європейського Союзу для досягнення справедливого миру між двома країнами.
It turned out that Russia, which for years positioned itself as the main mediator in the region, now openly distanced itself from the conflict.
Hello and welcome to Ukraine in Flames, a special project by Ukraine Media Center and NGO Euro-Atlantic Course. I'm your host, Maria Romanenko. Armenia and Azerbaijan have recognized each other's territorial integrity. This historic agreement between Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan and Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev was made in Prague on October the 7th. The day before, Pashinyan and Aliyev met with the EU Council President Charles Michel and French President Emmanuel Macron. The two South Caucasian leaders also agreed to a special EU mission that will be positioned alongside the country's border for up to 2 months, starting in October. But will this latest turn of events bring peace to the two countries? If you want to find out more, please continue watching this video and subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss our videos in the future. So what exactly has been agreed on? According to the European Council, Armenia and Azerbaijan have confirmed their commitment to the Charter of the United Nations and the Alma Ata 1991 Declaration, through which both recognize each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty. This is an important step after the last month conflict escalation saw at least 286 people killed on both sides. The September 2022 clashes were the worst in the conflict's history since 2020, though it is important to mention that unlike in 2020, there was no intervention or even mediation from Russia this year. To break down the 3-decade-long conflict, let's first turn to its history and how Ukraine has been reacting to it, delivered by Ihor Semevolos, the Executive Director of Ukraine-based Association of Middle East Studies.
Як вірмено-азербайджанський конфлікт впливає на Україну? В ретроспективі ми бачимо декілька етапів цього конфлікту від початкового етапу у радянський час та на початку 90-х років, коли Азербайджан програв війну через цілу низку обставин, як внутрішніх, так і зовнішніх. Україна на той час надавала Азербайджану військову підтримку, а в майбутньому це стало після стабілізації внутрішньополітичної ситуації в Азербайджані в середині 90-х років, це стало важливим елементом стратегічного партнерства між двома країнами. Азербайджан та Україна разом з іншими країнами, Грузією та Молдовою, утворили міждержавне об'єднання ГУАМ, розквіт якого припадає на початок 2000-х років. Для кожної з країн ГУАМ питання територіальної цілісності своїх країн було одним із найважливих наріжних каменів, що, без сумніву, сприяло взаємодії між цими країнами. Тривалий час Україні вдавалося знаходити баланс у відносинах із Вірменією. Втім, по мірі розвитку вірмено-російських інтеграційних процесів, ці відносини ставали прохолоднішими. Тривалий час Україна, опинившись в вирі змін та революційних подій 2013-2014 років, російської агресії та анексії своєї території Автономної Республіки Крим, не змогла швидко реагувати на політичні перипетії Південного Кавказу. Втім, 2014 рік став важливою віхою в переорієнтації Азербайджану, який деякий час активно зближувався з Москвою. Тоді, на тлі анексії Криму, Азербайджан пішов на співпрацю з Туреччиною. Саме цей утворений альянс дозволив Баку в майбутньому, восени 2020 року, провести наступальну операцію в Карабасі і звільнити більшу частину окупованої Вірменією території. Слід сказати, що Україна ретельно встежила за подіями і перипетіями цієї війни і, відповідно, робила висновки для модернізації своєї армії і активного використання БПЛА в майбутньому протистоянні з Москвою.
I also asked Igor Semevolos about how the Armenian-Azerbaijani conflict is affecting Ukraine today and how Ukraine should react to any possible escalations. Let's take a listen.
Сьогодні вплив конфлікту, який, на жаль, продовжується, і зараз є, по суті, трохи замороженим, на Україну лише посередковане. Це відволікання уваги Москви, яка задіяна там безпосередньо на землі, та постійна існуюча ймовірність повномасштабної війни між двома країнами. Втім, є один важливий елемент. Напруження, що існує, і зіткнення, які ми спостерігаємо на кордоні між двома країнами, ставить під сумнів і чим далі, тим більше здатність Росії виконувати свої союзницькі зобов'язання, що в цілому підважує спроможність Москви впливати на своїх так званих союзників на пострадянському просторі. У підсумку такий тренд призведе до остаточного занепаду Організації договору колективної безпеки ОДКБ, ну і втрати Росією стратегічного домінування в цьому регіоні. Як Україна має реагувати на цей конфлікт? Україна, на мою думку, має виходити із принципу територіальної цілісності та суверенітету Азербайджану. Разом з тим, ми без сумніву маємо вітати мирні ініціативи та переговорний процес між двома країнами під егідою Європейського Союзу для досягнення справедливого миру між двома країнами.
Olena Kurenkova is a journalist covering international affairs for Ukraine's public broadcaster Suspilne. She presented us with some of the more recent history of the Azerbaijani-Armenian conflict and Ukraine's reaction to it. Let's have a look.
Well, sometimes it seems that the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan is one of those more than 30-year-old stories that appear in the world media space too often to be followed very carefully. But disputes over the Lachin corridor in the summer and the latest escalation between the countries in September, the biggest escalation in the border region since the end of the Second Karabakh War, showed some certain unexpected twist. If Ukraine perceived Russia's so-called help or mediation to end another flare-up in Armenia-Azerbaijan conflict in 2020 with a fair amount of skepticism, now it seems that everything has become clear to Armenia, which had high hopes for Russia's position. And the reaction of Russia and the Collective Security Treaty Organization, a kind of version of Russia's NATO, which includes Armenia, to the new escalation clearly caused pretty much disappointment in Armenia, which did wait for help from its allies. It turned out that Russia, which for years positioned itself as the main mediator in the region, now openly distanced itself from the conflict. Of course, there could be a number of reasons for that, but one of them is the war in Ukraine, in which Russia throws so many of its resources but suffers defeat after defeat. This time, Armenia turned to the CSTO for immediate help, but the help received by Yerevan was limited to expressions of concern and some call to resolve the conflict through diplomatic means. But perhaps the most interesting thing was to watch how quickly the place of Russia, this vacuum for Armenia, was filled by the West. And that's when Russia decided to demonstrate some violent activity. And literally at the same time, when the Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi, came to Yerevan, the head of the State Duma of the Russian Federation, Vyacheslav Volodin, demonstratively announced his visit to Baku. But the fact that Armenia began to hesitate between who is its real ally from now on, is it Russia or the West, was revealed in the rallies in Yerevan regarding Armenia's withdrawal from the CSTO. And by the way, many people came to these rallies with Ukrainian flags. And I think that the recent quite sharp statements of the Prime Minister of Armenia, Nikol Pashinyan, also clearly indicate which of the allies has failed his country. If you remember, he stressed that Armenia, for example, doesn't receive the armaments for which it has already contributed funds and which it was counting on. And he also spoke about the fact that they say there are such sentiments in the country that the country may leave the CSTO. Pashinyan has already announced this possibility of receiving weapons from other countries and appealed to the Western alliances so that they, and not the CSTO, guarantee Armenia's safety from new clashes with Azerbaijan. When this happens, here I think you can trace a certain connection with the situation in Ukraine. After all, in reality, Armenia will be less and less interested in an ally that firstly doesn't honor its commitments to support its partners and secondly systematically suffers military failures at the front line. How someone like that help normally. But by the way, the same argument can work for Azerbaijan as well. There is a possibility that it will also stop seeing Russia as a mediator of conflicts in the South Caucasus, and if not a full-fledged ally, but at least a country with which it is necessary to cooperate. But won't Armenia's search for allies in the West be a reason for a new escalation between Armenia and Azerbaijan? Well, it's hard to make some clear opinion on that, but it seems to me that there is such a possibility. In 2020, I remember the Ukrainian media and experts were tempted to constantly compare the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan with Donbass. It seemed that there were also long-term territorial disputes between the two countries and so on. But now we see that the escalation of the situation in Ukraine has demonstrated that the Ukrainian side, I mean, the diplomats, is trying to refrain from any unequivocal statements in support of one of the warring parties, Armenia or Azerbaijan. And Armenia and Azerbaijan, in their statements regarding the war in Ukraine, also choose their words extremely carefully. Although there were some loud statements, for example, Ilham Aliyev, the president of Azerbaijan, spoke about this certain selectivity of the positions of the West, which unconditionally support the territorial integrity of Ukraine in this war. But when it comes to Azerbaijan and Armenia, they say, well, you have to make some certain compromises with Armenia, and there is no other way than diplomacy. When there was a war in Karabakh, the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry spoke quite clearly about the fact that Ukraine supports the territorial integrity of Azerbaijan. But now the situation is different, and this position doesn't look quite adequate when it comes to shelling other border territories of Armenia from the side of Azerbaijan. Apparently, this was a response to Yerevan's provocations, as they say it in Baku. So this time, Ukraine resorted to a kind of neutral diplomatic statement. The Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine called on Azerbaijan and Armenia for a political and diplomatical settlement of the conflict and pointed out the worthlessness of mediation by Russia. It seems to me that theoretically, this position of Ukraine can be transformed in the direction of greater support for Armenia, but Ukraine will definitely wait, first of all, for some first steps to be taken by Armenia. And it seems to me that it is still too early to talk about a fundamental shift in position.
You've been watching the special project by Ukraine Media Center and Euro-Atlantic course dedicated to the Russian-Ukrainian war, Ukraine in Flames. In the description under this video, you can find information on how you can help Ukraine fight Russian aggression. If you find our work useful, please like and share this video. Glory to Ukraine!